New Landing's Job Chat is brought to you in part by the Prosperity Advisory Group, the next step in your financial future, and by the EBS Group with an unparalleled background in Oracle solutions and services.
Is freelancing something that comes natural, or can you be trained to do it? Where can you get that training? You'll find out today on Job Chat. I'm your host, Hector Silva. Our guest today is Julie Cortés.
Hi there.
Julie is a 15-year veteran of the advertising marketing industry. Julie Cortés is a successful award-winning freelance copywriter and proofreader. In 2003, Cortés founded the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City, a non-for-profit professional trade organization specifically for those who are self-employed in the advertising and marketing industry. Cortés, along with her partner, started Freelancers University, providing savvy advice, best practices, and industry standards to the creative self-employed professional. She has been an active member, volunteer, and leader in the ad community, including 3 years as Ad2 Communications Director, President, and immediate past President for American Advertising Federation. Julie Cortés is often sought for speaking engagements and media interviews. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Why is training important if you've already done the job and you have some skills? So why do you need training?
What we're finding is that many freelancers, especially in the advertising and marketing industry, went to school and got trained in their particular niche. Whether it was writing, design, photography, what have you, they took those creative courses. Mm-hmm. They were able to really hone in on their skills and better those, but it just really wasn't required for most of us to take business classes. We weren't interested in taking business classes because we figured we'd be working for a company or an ad agency when we got out of school. But for whatever reason, we ended up on our own, whether by choice or by default. And so you might be really well versed in your craft, whether it's design or accounting or what have you, whatever it is that you do, but you might not know how to run a business. So training yourself on not only your craft, but also how to run a business and successfully run a business is so important.
And so what kind of resources are available for training out there?
There's so much that you can find. You can go to your library, you can go to the bookstore, you can go online. There's so many available resources out there, both on a local level and on a national level that you can go to. So if you want something like industry specific, you talked about the American Advertising Federation before, AAF. There's local chapters, there's national chapters, and you can find those resources. You can go to, I think it's AAF.com. or .org, and you can find that, see if they've got chapters in your area. That's going to help you with continuing education. Any sort of professional trade industry will help you with continuing education, but it's also important, again, to find the business training as well. So locally in Kansas City, we have many all across the board, and I'm sure it's the same nationally, whether it's, through a university or a small business resource center, or there might even be specific training in your town for those who are self-employed or small businesses.
You're talking about going back to school and getting formal training. Mm-hmm. How about self-training?
Self-training, it's very important. And you could go back to school, but I think really learning from others in the business who have been there, done that, is probably going to be more beneficial than anything that you could ever learn in a textbook or in a classroom. Sure, they might teach you accounting classes and everything, and that's great, but they're not going to be able to sit there and say what you should do or what works and what doesn't work, for example, when a client doesn't pay.
You have a university that does some training. Mm-hmm. What is the main intent of, let's say, Freelancers University? And I'm sure that there are other groups out there like that. Mm-hmm.
What's the main intent?
Yes.
So Freelancers University was designed to train those of us who are self-employed in advertising and marketing how to start, run, and succeed in their own businesses. So there are 3 types of classes that we host. There are business classes, marketing classes, and technique. And when I'm talking about business, again, it's the start, run, and succeed. It's the basics. It is, should you be incorporated or not? Taxes, what can and can't you write off? Should you have a contract? Yes. And then also, what do you put in that contract? What do you do when a client doesn't pay? How do you get work samples? And what's the usage rights and the copyright laws? There's so many different things that you need to know. So that's what we cover in business classes. There's also marketing classes, and that's twofold. So it's continuing education on the advertising and marketing industry, but it's also marketing yourself to try and get new business. Talk about branding, talk about social media, and how to get more clients in the door. And then the third component is technique. So we really dive in to software training. So we'll have InDesign classes, WordPress classes, what have you, the latest and greatest software. And then there's also technique for specific niches. For example, a lot of photographers right now are getting into videography. Well, they need to learn how to do that. A lot of them don't have the time or the money or resources to go back to school. So we'll be hosting videography 101 classes kind of thing. It's honing in on your particular discipline.
How do soft skills fall into this? Because definitely you're going to be working with clients and other people, so you need the interpersonal skills and you need some of the other soft skills.
Right.
What's the best way to go about getting those?
That's an excellent question, Hector. I personally haven't had to seek that out, so I honestly don't know. But again, I would just recommend getting out there and getting yourself immersed with other freelancers and talking to them. Even if you're very shy or feel like you're kind of socially awkward, I think getting out and meeting with other people, learning what's worked best for them and what doesn't work is really going to help you down the road.
And I imagine that there are soft skills training classes over at the various colleges and so forth that you can take. So I'm just saying that anything that helps your business is going to be necessary for you to go out there and make sure that you have the latest and greatest on that.
Absolutely. And that's an excellent point, especially in our industry in advertising and marketing. Unfortunately, on the creative side, there's a lot of egos in this business. And you've got to be able to, yes. No, he says. There are, unfortunately. And so you've got to be able to take a step back and just realize, you know what, it's business. It's not a personal thing. They're trying to do what's best for their business and their clients. So you've got to remember that. And even though you think your design, for example, is the best and the greatest and latest thing since sliced bread, it may not be. It might be very creative, to you, but it might not solve their end all goal. So it's just a matter of, learning those communication skills and understanding skills and how to work with them. And then, being able to take a step back yourself, again, realizing nothing's personal and you need to be able to work together and not against each other.
And I imagine that in advertising and marketing, just like any other of the fields, things change.
Yes, all the time.
So that continuing education is necessary to stay up with the latest.
Right. So, we can talk about QR codes. We can talk about social media. None of that was around 10 years ago. So those of us who have been freelancing for, 15 plus years, we wouldn't have gotten that training in school like a lot of the students are now. So it's very important to get out there, get that continuing education, and make sure that you're on top of your game. Because if you're not, you're really going to fall behind.
Yeah, that computer becomes more or less like your office.
It is.
And everything that you're going to do with the business is in there in some form, whether it's Excel spreadsheets or to keep up with your finances or anything else. So keeping up with the latest and greatest on computers and the latest softwares, anything like that, I imagine would be important.
Yes, absolutely. And again, surround yourself with people who are very knowledgeable in those areas too. So I'll be the first one to admit I'm not very tech savvy at all. But you know what? I've got some great friends who are Mac experts, or WordPress experts, and hey, can you help me out? I'll trade out, I'll help you out here for a little bit. So
networking again becomes that important, not just to meet people and not just to help your business, but to help yourself.
Right, absolutely. Because there's no way you could possibly know it all and be an expert at it all. And if you think you do, I got news for you. It's time to take a step back.
How much time should you put into training?
Another excellent question. It depends on how much you already know. But I would really set aside at least an hour a week, at least, if not more, for training. So continuing education, brushing up on your skills, and making sure that you're on top of the latest and greatest things. But if you are brand new to freelancing, I'd put in a lot more. And again, it's going to depend on your week or your month and how busy you are. If you're experiencing a slow period, take advantage of that time and really dive into your training then, so you feel like you're being productive, you're learning something, and then therefore you'll have those skills next time around when you need them when you're super busy.
So it should actually be part of a section in your business plan when you start the business.
Of course it should, yes.
Yeah. And you should, at that point, plan out what your training is going to be for that year and for the next year and so forth.
Right.
You just don't let it happen.
Right. And I'll tell you, there's an excellent book that I read when I first started out. It's called The Girl's Guide to Starting Your Own Business. And I will tell you, it's great for guys.
Can boys
too.
read it?
Boys, of course, can read it too.
Okay.
And I would highly recommend it for anybody. It's an easy read. You can sit down with your morning coffee, get through a chapter like that. Just take some time, read that book. There's so many great tips in there, and that they can lead you to different resources online. Anybody who's starting their own business, I think that's a must read.
Can you learn from your clients?
Of course you can learn from your clients. If I said no, I'd be an idiot. Yeah, there's so much that you can learn. And again, it's just a matter of being open-minded and being willing to learn from your clients. I've been in the business 15 years. Let me take that back. I've been freelancing 15 years. I've been in the business longer. I know I look young. Sorry. But there's still, I'll be the first one to admit that I don't know everything. And I think it's important to maintain that, that humble, modest sense of self, because that way, that's the only way you're going to be able to grow and learn. Because if you've got this ego that you know it all, who's going to want to work with you anyway, right?
So there are resources here in this area, and there are resources nationally.
Yes, and internationally as well.
Okay. Do you see any of that coming together?
Of course I do. I think a lot of us are trying to do the same things in different cities, and I think eventually we're going to end up combining our efforts. For example, here in Kansas City, we've got the Freelance Exchange, which is a not-for-profit professional trade organization. We've got Freelancers University, which is all education all the time. You go down to Atlanta, they've got a similar situation. There's the Freelance Forum, which is also a professional trade organization. It's more about the exchange of ideas and networking amongst each other. But then there's also International Freelancers Academy that comes out of Atlanta. So, you can go to Seattle and find similar resources. You can go to Denver. They might not be as big and progressed as what we've got going on now, but once we all get together, which I think we will, because I'm trying to get everybody talking here, I think we're going to merge forces and just make it one huge resource for freelancers all over the world.
So then you would have consistency in the training, consistency in the way things are done by freelancers.
Right. And there are industry standards set already out there. For example, again, in the advertising and marketing industry, there's another book, another great resource put out by the Graphic Artists Guild. It's called the Graphic Artists Guild Handbook of Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. And it is fantastic. I call this the Freelancer's Bible. I don't care if you're a designer and it says it's put out by the Designers Guild. I don't care if you're not a designer. Go get this book. It is going to be an incredible resource to just give you the basics to start with, right? What should you even charge? I mean, rates are a huge, huge factor to consider, and they're going to be different depending on what area you live in, if you live in New York or if you live in Kansas City, right? Cost of living is different, so rates are going to be different. And they'll give you sample contracts and, different strategies of what to do when a client doesn't pay, talk about those soft skills. It's an incredible, incredible resource, and I highly recommend it.
When you talked about the standards, who sets the standards?
We do. We do. Our clients try to set the standards themselves, but what they don't understand is that they've already been set. So just like any advertising working relationship, there's just things that you do, right? You send out an estimate when somebody asks you for an estimate. You send out an invoice when you're done. But there's other standards, such as having a contract signed that documents everything. These are the expectations. These are the deliverables. Here's the date when it's needed. Here's when I expect to get paid. If I don't get paid by such time, here's what's going to happen. Yes, I'm a big proponent on that, if you can't tell already. But there's so many different things that really y'all need to be on the same page with. And it's just essential that freelancers know that these industry standards are already set. There's Freelancers Union in New York. There's already, people are finally getting together and training each other on what these standards are. And then the next step, and here's something that I'm working on, is training the clients. Because the clients think that they can dictate, like I said before, they think that they're dictating the standards, and that's not the case. We are business owners just like they are. We run our own businesses, so we get to dictate how we run our businesses, not them. So if they say, you know what, Julie, I didn't get paid by my client, we're not going to pay you. No, that's not the way it works. Is that what you tell the light company, your utility company, when your bill comes due, or your Visa bill? Oh, we haven't gotten paid yet. You just need to wait. You just need to sit tight. No, of course not. You pay your bill. If you hire somebody, you pay your bill. And here's a huge thing in advertising and marketing, because it's such a subjective business. So it's extremely important for the client to do their research up front and to find out what your style of work is, especially on the creative side. It's so subjective. You might have a very corporate style. You might have a very whimsical style, a very hardcore push the envelope style. Everybody's got a different style. You can't be all things to all people, right? So it's very important for the client to know that up front, know what they're getting into, making sure they're finding the right person by interviewing people, looking at their portfolio samples, looking online at their websites. Very, very important. But it never fails. It's going to happen at some point in your freelance career when the client says, you know what, this isn't working. We're not liking what you're providing. We need to cut ways. We need to part ways. Okay, great. Well, if you have a contract in place, it's going to say, you know what, you're paying for my time. You're not necessarily paying for the end product. You're paying for my time. And again, I highly recommend you put that in your contract. So that way you get paid for your time, whether or not the client uses that material or not. And it's like I say, if you go to get your hair cut, for example, you go to a new barber or a new stylist and you get your hair cut and you don't like it. It's not like you walk out the door and you don't pay them. Of course you pay your bill. You might not go back to them. That's fine. But of course you pay your bill. If you go to the doctor and they give you a prognosis that you don't like and you go get a second opinion, you still pay your bill. It's no different. It's no different. We're all business owners and we all deserve to be paid for our time.
Also, when you're training that client, there have to be expectations set.
Right.
Not every freelancer is going to be good.
Right.
And you don't want the client lumping all freelancers into one box that says, this one wasn't good, so I don't use anymore.
Right.
Okay? So there is a training that has to be done with expectations for clients also, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City has this resource on their website. It's called a must-read for clients, and it's got everything documented in there. Anything from, where do you find a freelancer, what to look for, what to expect, and then, what do you do when things don't work out? And again, it's a huge training thing. I would recommend anybody download that PDF and utilize that because, again, you need to train yourself first before you can even begin to think about training your clients. But the more and more of us who know what these industry standards are and present those to our clients, the less we're going to be getting, oh, you don't know what you're doing, you're self-employed, you don't know anything about this. They're going to start seeing that we're getting our stuff together and we're really bonding together as a freelance community. We're educating ourselves. We are smart individuals. And we're going to be, in essence, upping the standard and the reputation that the term freelance has.
How important for your business is it that at some time, instead of the trainee, you become the trainer?
Yeah, often, oftentimes, and it's really interesting how that works. Just the whole dynamic of it, because you don't expect it, they don't expect it, but it's amazing what happens.
And even with other freelancers, the fact that you can say that you're a trainer at Freelancers University or some such training company. Doesn't it add some prestige that you are a trainer as opposed to a trainee?
Well, sure, absolutely. And again, I would recommend, finding that niche. It's an additional little reputation boost, if you will, and it will, again, help you get referrals. It will help you get clients. It will help your reputation. So whether you're training on freelancing or advertising or whatever your discipline is, maybe you want to present yourself as an expert in photography, then whatever it is, yeah, absolutely gives yourself a little bit of a boost. And I think clients and prospects are going to look at you with a little bit of more respect than they probably would somebody who might be just out of school or just starting out on their own.
And I also imagine that trade magazines are a good place to learn and to contribute.
Absolutely. And blog posts as well. Getting out there and sharing your expertise. So many different things that you can do, and get the word out there, share your expertise, and position yourself as a knowledgeable person. I don't like the word expert because I don't think anybody can ever be a true expert, because things are constantly changing, constantly morphing. So, but you can present yourself as being knowledgeable on the subject, and then going out and helping others. And that's what I have done. Is I've been on my own 15 years now, and 10 years ago I was like, hey, I don't know it all. Let's figure it out. Let's get together and figure it out. Now that I have figured a lot of it out, again, still not everything. I'm still learning right along with you guys. But now I'm helping others through Freelancers University and helping, my fellow freelancers and training them. And so just continuing the education.
Well, regardless of what you say, you are our freelancer expert.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm very flattered.
And if somebody wanted to contact you for more advice, some more information, where can they reach you?
They can reach me through Freelancers U via email at julie@freelancersu.com.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You can hear more advice and information from Julie on other podcasts and from some of our other experts on other podcasts by going to www.newlandingsjobchat.org or go to YouTube and search for Job Chat. Until next time, may your days be full of health, happiness, and success.